Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. We're my sisters, we got this, sisters. You roll with me and I'll roll with ya. We're my sisters, we got this, sisters. You roll with me and I'll roll with ya. Suspense, sis, we know we on a mission, no games. Help each other get over some things. We don't try to bring change. Cause we've been through the rain. Now it's time to shine like rain. Let's talk about life. Still, we building up our quality to right. Wills, rolling out of comedy, love, hills. So we become the prodigy of power. Sistership could be a really hot commodity. Stand together, we united, hold hands. Support each other's dreams and our plans. Doing everything we can. Just to show we understand the power of a friendship fam. Let's fight on purpose. Together we earn it. Yeah, let's talk. We don't want to see you hurt. You'll be here for each other. No matter the color, network it. That's for sure and for certain.
We on a sistership.
We're my sisters, we got this, sisters. You roll with me and I'll roll with you. We're my sisters, we got this, sisters. You roll with me and I'll roll with you. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it.
Sistership. We on a sistership. Hey. You know, I like that last two. I got to do that. I got to do that every Sunday. This is Sistership Sunday, y'all. Hello, everybody. Hello, it's Sistership Sunday. I am your host, Stephia, and we have our beautiful sisters on the Sistership Sunday here with us. We've got Kalima Green, Lady K. We've got Sherry Knight. And I'm just going to say this on public. Happy birthday, Sherry. Lady Wisdom.
Happy birthday, Lady Wisdom. Thank you.
I know she didn't want me to say that, but I said it anyway. I'm going to get it. But it is Women's Month. It is the end of Women's Month. We're coming to a close. And today, you know, we wanted to kind of get into a discussion around the true influence of a woman. And man, we were having a little bit of a heated discussion a couple minutes ago in relation to what's going on today versus what was the intent of women's lib and all this conversation that's been had around this topic. So I want to also say, if there's anyone in your life, a woman in your life that has influenced your life, you want to acknowledge them today
in a positive way.
Yes, because we'll be getting to that discussion. 888-304-4401. It's so important to actually acknowledge women who have truly influenced your life in a positive manner. So we'll talk about that, because there's negative and there's positive. So the energy you put out there is what you're going to get in return. And so we'll talk about it. So with that said, I want to start off with Lady Wisdom, because this was her thought process on getting into this topic, and again, perfect segue into closing out the Women's Month, Women's History Month. So let's talk about the true influence of a woman. Now, there's the positive aspect and then the kind of not so positive aspect. Let's talk about the positivity. You know, we've evolved as women, right, over the years. I mean, you've got, the women's rights movement, and, we have a woman vice president now, and all these people, women who have moved the needle and how they've been influential in society. But what is the true influence of a woman?
That is
women's history, we could start back in Bible time. I think that women don't have a clue how influential they can be without a word being said or spoken. Eve had influence over Adam. That's where it started. He disobeyed what he was told directly, and she influenced him to take that first fight, which is where it all started. Without having to say a word, Bathsheba was at home on her back, I would call it a patio or whatever. She caught David's attention, but she didn't call him over. She influenced his feelings for her by just being there. She had no idea. She didn't have to say a word. Right? That was his downfall. Delilah, same thing. It was her influence when this man was tired that got him to tell something that he was directly told not to tell. The power of the influence of a woman, women use, it could be a tool or it could be a weapon.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately nowadays, it's more like a weapon. If you don't do this, that's where the ultimatums come in. Who you looking up to? Who do you have influencing you? Those around you are considered old if they have self-respect and self-esteem and self-love. That doesn't mean you're an old head. It just means that you love yourself. You had an influencer that was around you that made you feel good about who you are and knowing who you are. There was a point, I think I was having this conversation earlier, there was a point when women got lost in being wives and mothers. Now they're getting lost in the world with all of the drama. To hear that a young lady was sitting in the studio with grown men, their father's age, they can call it their grandfather's age, and speak as if they were sailors is trifling.
Right.
And then to know that mom is laughing.
Yeah.
Well, mom, you're a bad influence on your daughter. And that is sad. It is real sad that we have no idea of the influence that we have, that it could be a positive influence. You could be raising ladies. Instead, y'all want to raise sailors. Y'all are like right now, there's a lot of females that are okay with their daughters getting on these videos in these shows, shaking their behinds and flashing their breasts, and they think that is cute.
Right.
They talk worse than some men. If you could shock a man with your conversation, then you have to ask yourself, what am I saying? What am I saying? What have I taught my daughter? I have 2 daughters, for those of you who want to know. I have 2 daughters, and they are ladies. What happened to us wanting to step into our pink and fluffy selves? You could be a freak in the street if you wanted to, and be a lady everywhere. We project off what we want people to believe about us. We project off what we want people to see about us. And now the influence has gotten so bad. It's so sideways right now. I just want to know how we're going to pull it back. Or do we even understand the power of the truth of a woman?
You know, when we were starting this conversation earlier, you know, like I was actually talking with someone earlier today, and I said, you know, when I think of the influence of a woman, I look at nurturers. I look at us as nurturers on building a society that can sustain itself by women leading and being those examples for others. But to your point, at what point have we lost our way where we're not really being those positive influences, which are to be leaders in business, leaders in our own our own businesses, not only in whether a corporate environment or whatever you're working, being leaders to our children, our daughters, for them to then elevate and lead as well. And again, from a positive perspective, and not this, again, to your point, flaunting, because, I think things get misconstrued when you use a sexual element to say that is what the true influence of a woman is.
Right.
Because it's not about that. It's way more than that sexual being or that person that's in front of you, flaunting themselves, as you said, right? And again, it's more about self-respect and self-preservation, because at the end of the day, these elements that you were referring to, Lady Wisdom, are so temporary, and people are going to judge you for that,
Right.
and it's going to be hard. It's hard to kind of pull that back. So I think, to your point, society today, how do we pull this back? What's going on today? What do you think?
Before we go into how we pull it back, I can say one thing. I respect my mom because when I was a teenager, there's a lot of influence.
Yeah.
So I want to put on cute stuff, and my mom was like, "Where you going? Take it off."
Yeah.
Now you too revealing.
Yeah.
And at that time, I'm young, so she's like, "No." You already got grown men looking at you. So I appreciate that she instilled in me, because it still carries to me to this day as a grown woman. People come to me, like when I go on social media, people some guys like, you don't really show yourself. Am I supposed to? You got so used to people that's putting out everything. Why would I want to put myself on the pedestal? If I'm saying that I respect myself, then why would I signify that to the world? You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of people that I know that I went to school with, and they're just out there just exploring. And they got so many likes. I'm like, oh, yeah, you want to put a clout? Is that what you want? You really want to put attention? Or you want to set another tone? Because either way, to me, it's not appealing.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on the age, right? It really depends on the age. Unfortunately, you had a lot of young mothers that were having children, and now they are no longer with who they were with, and now they want to be in a club with you.
So my mother had me at 24, and that's I guess I understand times was different back then, but my mom had me at 24. She set that tone. So it's like, I don't want to hear it. It's like either you're gonna make a decision to cover yourself, or you just want to be flashy like that.
But that has to be. But here's the thing: we have to learn to not expect us from others.
You're right.
That's number one.
That's so
number
true.
two, they are not being raised by the same people we were raised by. Some people were raised in the streets, and they only learned from the streets and the influence of the street itself. Then you have those that were raised in a very strict household. You have those that it's all kinds of households that females have been raised in. It's what you took. So there's a lot of dysfunction. Like, I grew up in dysfunction, but I learned a lot. And I can't say that any one person told me. When I looked at my mom and the stuff that she went through, it was things that I learned not to do.
Right.
Okay. So I had to take time, and at some point, the lessons that I've seen and the experiences that I had in life was just that, lessons. When I was growing up, I used to have to wear my hair covered all the time. And I didn't understand it until I got older. So recently, if anybody has seen me, other than today, I have been wearing my hair covered again. And in the process of covering my hair, I realized how sensual my hair is to some people, right? So you as a person are not to become someone else's stumbling block, right? So in the process of it, where people have foot fetishes and purse fetishes and things that they want to collect, hair is a fetish for some others. They look at you, they look how beautiful your hair is, they want to run their fingers through your hair. Again, it goes back in a true influence of how we have without noticing. When I was growing up, and for those of you who had heard, yes, yesterday was my birthday, but let me make it clear. the stuff that is being worn today, the skin on the grape leggings, if you weren't in working out, you didn't wear that in the street unless you was on the strip. The 5 to 6 inch heels wasn't worn every day. And any real housewife that's really taking care of home is not wearing those things anymore. But that's what's being shown to them on the reality TV shows where they got their makeup artists and they got their hairdressers and they got all of this, and all of them is showing as much behind and cleavage as possible, making people believe that this is the way women are supposed to be seen.
Right.
Really? Y'all are housewives of what?
Naked without being naked. Naked without being naked is really what you're getting to, because at the end of the day, what you have, your shell, the outside that you project to others, is not necessarily what should be influencing people.
Right.
It should be who you are as a person. You know what I'm saying? What women can provide as influencers, and not so much. And I think, again, it's because society has so changed so much that, again, that physical outward appearance is what people are being influenced by, and we've lost all essence of what a woman can be or should be as an influence to other females, other children, and young and old. So and to your point, it doesn't go back to, well, it kind of goes back to, again, age and then not age, because as we were growing up, and you're a little older than me.
Okay with that?
She's okay with that. I mean, but I did come from a strict family, background. I mean, my dad was strict, and so was my mother. And I saw how my sister, and 4 girls. My dad had 4 girls, and he's lost the majority of his hair now. But they tried to do the best they could to make sure that their children grew up respecting themselves, right? And knowing that don't be that object for a man. Be more than that. You know what I'm saying? Be leaders. Know how to manage your finances. Know how to, be hard workers, do for self. And it wasn't because we were taken away from a man. It was to make sure that we were also an influence to other young girls, like my nieces, and I got 13 nieces and nephews, 11 nieces and nephews. Oh my God, is there 2 more coming?
Apparently, you just spoke it up.
But 11 nieces and nephews, and I have a lot of nieces, and I look at them, and I look at what my parents were, as my mom was as an influence for us in the environment we grew up in, and what my sisters learned, and how my nieces now are growing.
Right.
And it's not that exploitation of body, right? It was more than that. It's being entrepreneurs. It's taking ownership of themselves and being decent human beings in society.
Well, I think a lot is media.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you got these young ladies that think having a potty mouth is the standard for what's out here, and that you are looked at as. I just don't know where it came that you were now looked at that sex. Sex at one point, yeah, it was solid. But now we're dealing with a different audience.
But it was projected differently, us growing up. Like, for example, I used to watch late at night, BET, Uncut. And that's when they were showing the real stuff. But I was staying up late just to watch that. And I was a teenager speaking stuff. But at the same time, too, because of the morals my mom instilled into me, affecting how I act. And I know we was going to talk about identity before the show started. It's okay that a woman wants to feel sexy, but there's a time and place for everything.
Right.
And that's the key thing that a lot of women have to know. You don't have to go on social media and flaunt what you do. Like, for example, I know someone that's on social media right now, and she's in the real estate industry, right? Gorgeous girl. But she talks about what she knows, but then also, too, she flaunts her body. And I'm like, you don't realize she's in a mixed signals right now. And I'm like, I know she wants to feel sexy and grown, but I'm like, I don't think that's the space for that, especially it depends on who you're trying to market to. And if you want to put yourself at, you want to say one day, I want to sell to 6 figure owners, do you think they want to
Mm.
look at you and bring you around other clientele? And then they can always trace you back to social media. That's what people don't think about. They can always trace you back to social media and what you do and what type of content that you put out. The content that you put out really does matter.
Yeah.
But always remember this. There's at least 5 people watching you a day. When you're out, you got people that are watching you.
Absolutely.
Period. But they have made, like, no disrespect intended in this, but all right, I say it and I mean what I say. The people that are out here that are making prostitution and stripping the norm for females,
Right.
is what the influence is right now. The Cardi B's of the world. Cardi B told her story before somebody else told it. And I'm not mad at her for that.
Right.
But is that the life that she wants her child? She has a beautiful, beautiful young baby girl.
Right.
Is that the life that she wants for her baby girl? Did you say that out loud in the world so you could do the opposite? Or you could teach your daughter to do the opposite? You understand what I'm saying?
I understand.
It's becoming so normal for these young girls to show their bodies. That like you said, BET Uncut at night. It was at a later hour.
Right.
But when you're on television right now, they are cursing. The only word I have not heard said is the F word. That's the only one I haven't heard on TV yet. But they not only sailors with their potty mouths, they stripping like they prostitutes and whores. They don't realize they're selling themselves short because they giving it all away, left nothing to them. They leaving nothing mysterious. They leaving nothing to the imagination, and then they want to know why they're not respected. Really?
So let me ask, what? And again, I'm only asking because I think we need to get down to the bottom of what's changed, right? We know that we've evolved as women as far as, going from being wives at home, not having jobs, the husband, bringing the bread home, and then the, wives were tending to the homes, right, and the children. Then we ended up, with the women's rights and, again, men going to war and women started getting jobs and wanting to continue to work and so on. And then we kept going and going and going, right? Women's lib, now we've got all these other movements going on. Does that have a direct correlation to the changes that we're seeing in society as it relates to women? Because not for nothing, I mean, you think about the old movies about, sex selling. I mean, they were fully clothed women and they were selling sex. You know what I'm saying? Where today now we're undressing to sell sex. So what do we think has changed? And, from that evolution.
Young girls without guidance. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Young women without guidance. Because right now, if you say something to somebody, they'll be ready to curse you out. Or if you try to tell something, that's like, I respect Monique for this, but she was like addressing the young ladies wearing the bonnets, and somebody was like, "Oh, it's none of your business." She said, "It is my business," and I feel like, well, when are we going to make it our business to address certain things, or how can we? Because these days people are kind of crazy, so I kind of understand why you step back a little bit. You know what I'm trying to say? So it's like I want to interview, but how do I interview? But it did when it left. It was like, how can we gravitate that back? That's the question. That's the answer. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like that's when I take a lot of work to pull that back. But to be honest, I don't think people want to go back because they start thinking about, oh yeah, going back to that 1990 stuff, and we're not there. And it's like, well, you don't get it. There's a difference between you showing yourself and you have enough respect for morals and how you place yourself in society.
Right.
And again, they're not getting it.
I don't know. Have you ever watching Black China?
Black China, yes. She's reversing, yes.
And I'm watching her and I'm going,
yes.
Will she bring it back a little bit?
Who else did that? What's the other girl, young name?
Because a lot of
But
them
so let's talk about this. I mean, change. Let's talk about change. Change can be good or bad, right? You need to get on the mic, Miss Bling. But but there's changes happen and people want to revert. So how, to your point, how do you revert back?
Hey, Michelle.
Right.
To
Hey, Michelle.
self-respect. But the change that occurred through history, the change that occurred, what drove us to now have girls, even young adults, if not older, to have less self-respect and self-esteem to say, how did that mentality get driven?
It started when women was trying to teach other women to get what they want with what they have.
That
Right.
took me back to the Players Club in
Back in the
96.
days. Well, again, don't let your money make you.
Absolutely.
Right? Unfortunately, it was spoken at many times in the boardroom. In order for a woman to get where she wanted to go, she had to sleep with those that are in higher positions that can help her get there.
Absolutely.
Right now, television is whichever celebrity you sleep with, he will feature you as one of his main video vixens. The video vixen just means that you are my main video slut. I mean, with respect.
AKA Superhead.
Like you, but I mean, she's a prime example. And then as you get older, see what a lot of people don't realize is the way you think when you are 16 is not the same way you think when you're 19.
Right.
When you're 25, it's not the same way you were thinking when you was 19.
Yes.
As you grow, you're supposed to grow and mature. So you're supposed to have some kind of influence that lets you know. But you got some of these young mothers, and I'm going to speak it the way I see it. You are out here prostituting your daughters and their looks and their bodies. The biggest offender to me and how she got it started was the Kardashian mom.
I knew you was going to say that. That was exactly my same thought. I said,
Lord,
she shouldn't have did.
We
And
starting
that's
it.
my lady. One of them females had sex on tape, and then it was put out to the world. She wasn't famous for doing anything positive. She was famous for what she did to get where she wanted to go.
Right.
And that was the advantage that was taken. Unfortunately, we have to teach our girls different. You don't have to sleep with the head partner in a law firm in order to be a partner. Do the work.
Right.
Do the work.
That goes back to what we were saying as far as losing that self-respect and losing our true influence, because again, that's all temporary, right?
Right.
You could do that, but that's only a temporary solution to a longer term problem, right? Because at the end of the day, if you really want to be a true influence as a woman, that is not going to get you to where you need to go and sustain it.
I mean, it's funny you should say that because on TikTok, I'm watching a little girl and I'm like, it's going to turn scary.
That's a lot. I mean, social media in itself is scary.
And it's a child, so I won't put the name out, but watching it, Facebook or Ice Spice and the different TikToks that are being put out there
See,
now.
I don't do the social media like
a little scary with the daughter.
But that's a concern because again, you got a social media platform here now that's getting kids out into the world.
Right.
It's not just
And it's like a start
right.
to what her mom went through. You understand? So it's like,
So are we stuck? Are we stuck? Are women stuck? Is because it goes back to what you were saying, like, these women are prostituting their young girls or girls.
Let me be clear though.
although her mom says she controls it.
But let me be clear though. I want this to be clear. It's not all women.
No.
Right.
And women don't only have the influence. Dads,
Yes.
you have influence over your baby girls.
Yeah.
You are the way they see you treat their mama, the way they see you treat your mama, the way they see you treat your sister, the way they see you treat your ex. All of those people are influences.
Yeah.
Men, you have got to step up and stop allowing the wrong head to do the head talking. Like, I don't want you looking at my daughter in a manner in disrespect. Are you looking at these girls? And remember, one little girl, if you have a little girl, there's a lesson you better learn from it. You better teach your daughter that she is special. Now, there are fathers that teach their daughters that they are queens. But how many of these young girls can be called queens anymore? Don't tell queen of what? I'm not going to give any one of these young women that are out here the title queen, because you're not portraying queens anymore. You're not portraying that to the world. The world is seeing you as nothing but what you are, a loud mouth, butt shaking, potty mouth. They're not seeing you. Where's the respect? So being an influencer, be that influencer that knows that somebody is watching you at all times.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That they can see you and your influence is coming to them, whether they say something to you or not.
So true influence of, and go ahead, because I want Lady K to interject on this one, but true influence of a woman, again, we have to your point, we have to understand what we're projecting out in society, right, as women. And when we look at, we need to get to the bottom of what are true beneficial influences to young girls to become young women and evolve in life. And we have to get out of this society of, these women wanting to just be, again, saying all, regardless of who they're talking to, and putting their sexual beings out on the platform, et cetera, and so on. We have to get to a point to understand what really is a sustainable influence of a woman that is of a positive nature versus, because we've been talking about it back and forth about our history and how we grew up. But let's talk about what those examples are, because it's going to be important, especially now that we're talking about this. We focused on a lot of the elements that are not beneficial. We got to talk about what is beneficial and teach these women and young girls that there are positive influences that make good decisions that are sustainable throughout their lives to make them good individuals. And that's not saying they're bad people, whoever's doing this, just their mindset's a little twisted on what they think is a positive influence out there in society.
I find that Queen Latifah is probably one of the most positive
I love her.
influencers out there.
I love her.
People have their opinions and they're entitled to them, same as mine. But she has crossed over. She started with rap. She not only, but her rap was ladylike. Ladies First was probably the first rap song that really intrigued me. She went from rapping. She has sung in London. She has sung in the White House. She is on television. She has been opposite some of the top male celebrities. She goes places and she draws attention.
And she's respected.
When she walks in, she shifts the atmosphere in a positive way.
Yes,
absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
But then you have those that are out there that comes in that I actually have respect for. So my mom taught me, if you got nothing nice to say about people, say nothing at all. I'm not going to big them up.
Nope.
I'm not going to throw their name around because I'm not going to have you look them up. But you see them in the world today. Constant. What we need to encourage our do is get the education they need. If you want to influence them to do the best that they can. And if they're struggling in the class, to get a tutor. That's better in that subject than they might be. They don't have to sleep with the board exec. Their mouths don't have to be trashy in order to draw attention. All attention is a good intention. I mean,
Absolutely.
the true influence is knowing your value, knowing the power of silence, knowing who you are is probably the biggest influence a woman can have. Self-esteem comes from knowing who you are, self-confidence, self-love. If I don't love me and I don't want to be in my own company, I have to realize I have to do some soul searching, some healing, so that my influence to the world is if I don't want to be in my company, who else will?
Right.
If you only could be in my company with a bad mouth, I'm gonna stop you from talking to me.
Right.
So if you can't talk to me and hold a conversation without a cuss coming out, I just don't need to have that conversation or speak to you. You don't need to be in my presence.
I want to share who was a great influence. Before I go there, I want to talk about the terms of endearment that they think is appropriate today. Like when I hear another woman address another woman, bitch, it just irks my spirit so bad now. Before I used to use it, but once I came into that enlightenment, like
That's not a term of
that's not
endearment.
positive. And then so I grew up around that, hearing that my whole life. So when I see the people that I'm around and they then I'll be like, please don't say that to me. Like I'm crazy now. Keep reminding them, please don't say that about me. I don't like that word.
Right.
Don't
You're
talk
my
that-
bee.
Right.
You know, just
No,
no.
I understand
that's
what you're saying, but that's
that's
not
not-
a nice term of endearment. Don't use that on me because I'm not that person that I was 2 years ago. I'm not even the same person I was beginning of this year. You know what I'm saying? But going back to two people, I want to go back and go for it, that I respect so much. When Felicia Fashad played Claire Huxtable,
Alicia
when she played Claire Huxtable and how she posed herself and how I just love everything about her character. And I was like, oh my God. And that's what I grew up on. I love it. I love how, she took care of her kids, her husband, how she talked to them. She commanded the room.
Yes.
That was one thing that's like how she commanded the room, how that was influence right there. She was influence of the whole household. I was like, yes. I love that.
Yeah.
And of course now moving forward to today's time, I respect them so about her while she was still by her husband's side. I mean, to have a 6-figure income and say, I'm going to put that to the side for right now so I can go ahead and support my husband and not feel any type of way, because a lot of women don't understand what that comes with. So I just respect and how she carried herself and the things that she has done. And it's so funny. It's not, but it is. When somebody asked earlier, they was like, where's Melania? And I was like, where is she? She's been pretty quiet.
So, well, I don't.
But I believe I'm leaving that right there. But she
there.
was a respected first lady. And I just respect how she came out and she pulled herself and she pulled and how she carries herself.
Again, when they go low, we go high, right? That was her quoted quote. And again, that was a positive influence, right? I mean, I do, and I respect her to the utmost because she did command, regardless of Obama being in office, she could come out and command a room.
Absolutely.
With her presence,
Absolutely.
with the way she spoke, the way she carried herself. And it all was, from the mind, right? It was all about her mind and how she portrayed herself and how she carried herself with her, chest out and arms up, shoulders up, and speaking very candidly to her audience. And again, with a positive messaging. And even when she had to nudge to go after some folks, it was never in a way that was, judgmental or characterizing them in a certain manner, like calling people out
no matter
or
what
whatever. Right.
No matter
And they
about
disrespected her to the utmost, but she still carried herself in a positive manner.
Words come out your mouth, and that's what people don't realize. Once they come out, they can't go back.
Right.
You can't pull them back. No matter how many times you say I'm sorry, it doesn't change that it came out.
Yeah, exactly. What's done is done. And that's why we have to be very careful what we put out there in social media platforms, when we're walking in society, walking around in your jobs, in your homes, et cetera, and so on. Because again, to your point, what you put out there, it's already said. You can't take that back. What you show is already there. You can't take that back.
One of the hardest things that people had a big problem with. At first, I didn't understand. There was a point where Will Smith and the co-star that was the first mom on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Fresh Prince.
Right.
The problem was he was immature. I mean, he apologized to her later, but it affected her
Career.
He made it seem as if she was difficult to work with.
Oh, I remember that.
And
Yeah.
because of that,
Mhm.
he had no idea of the influence that he had over those that was around him.
Yes.
And it took her from where she was and put her some other place. I don't necessarily agree with the way it happened or what, but it took me a little while to understand that sometimes what I like, what I think, what I say influences somebody else's thoughts or how they see something or how they hear something.
Right.
But that's an influence that I had to learn that if I don't speak positive, I was talking to a woman the other day, and everything somebody said negative to her, she flipped that sucker right back on positive. She said, "You could call me what you want to call me, but that's because you can't handle me."
Ooh.
I like that.
Like that.
Right? So you can't. She's not gonna let you harm her. Like that's what we need to be influencing. Oh, so you don't like what I'm wearing? Okay, that's why I'm wearing it and not you. Like those are the kind of things.
Right.
I'm not a bad bitch, and I don't want to be called that either.
Right.
But then if you take those words, if you take the acronym and you break it down, being in total control of herself is an amazing thing. But that nonetheless, it has a negative inconnotation
Right.
already added to it. So I don't want you to put it on me. It's not a term of endearment. It doesn't make me feel good about myself. And it doesn't make those that are around me look at me the same way that I would like them to look at me. They don't see the respect. They see that as disrespect. And if I tolerate the disrespect, that's how they see me, that I'm able to be disrespected.
Right.
I don't need any self-esteem. I don't need anything. That's one of the hardest things right now is to teach somebody how to love themselves. But you have to know, I tell my kids I love them every day. My adult kids, I tell them that they're beautiful, they're good looking, I'm proud of them. I am so grateful for having the time to be able to raise them. Although I raised them in a different time setting,
Right.
I'm helping them with my grandchildren now. But they had to be mindful that the way I raised you was not the way some other people were raised. I used to tell my kids that all the time. What I do in my house is not going to be the same thing somebody else is getting in their house.
Right.
Be mindful of that.
Right.
Where I'm not going to call you out your name, but somebody might be calling their child out their name.
Right.
So I need my influence to be positive, and I need the influence that's around my young ladies to be positive. And I need these young ladies that are out here right now that are looking for someone to influence them to be a part of their world, to give them positivity. Show them that who they are is just as important with a turtleneck on as it is for those that showing their stuff.
I think women, when we talk about self-respect and things of that nature, it's understanding that they are worthy of better than what society has put out for them, right? Whether it be magazines, whether it be TV shows, whether it be music industry or whatever the case may be, you don't have to carry yourself in that manner that is being put out there.
But I mean, at one point, those are the kind of things that was selling. Right? So now it's no more. It's changing. So the same thing that you feel like is what you had to do you don't have to do anymore. Like, do you know your strength? Do you realize that you have it? Do you realize how powerful it is to sit and read a book?
Mhm.
You know, I mean, it's up to us to teach our kids different. If you didn't have a positive role model when you were growing up, take what they did, learn from it, and teach your children the opposite. Right? So if you take that lesson, instead of looking at it as a way to be traumatized for the rest of your life, sometimes people can't get past the trauma.
Yeah.
And I get that part.
Yeah.
But I can't keep telling you, and you can't keep saying, I can't get past this trauma if you're not doing the work to help you. You're not seeking out help. It's okay to see a therapist. It's okay to go to the doctor. It's okay to stand in the gym. It's okay. It's okay for you to be you. It's like the people used to laugh at other people when they was in the gym. But they in the gym.
Right.
They can change their outer appearance, but that ugliness on the inside of you is what's
That
coming
takes
out.
work.
Yeah,
That takes work.
And that's unfortunate that they don't see that bullying is not okay. If it's not okay to be bullied, then we have to realize what causes people to bully. They've been traumatized somewhere, right?
Right.
So the influence that was around them somehow got them to become who they are. All I ask is parents, grandparents, aunties, uncles, nieces, cousins, grandparents, or whoever you are to someone else, know that you are being watched. You can influence those that are around you.
Right.
I need you ladies to realize that you're influenced. You don't have to always, the ultimatum, right? You could upset your entire household if you and your husband are having a fight, or your significant other one. If you decide that you're not gonna give up, intimacy. I don't want to be intimate with you unless you do this, or you better do that.
The ultimatums.
Those ultimatums is a form of influence.
It's a form of control.
So what he sees and hears is manipulation.
Right.
Manipulation leads to resentment. Resentment leads to relationships breaking up. That's an influence.
Yep.
I want to go back to you talking about, it's pretty much taking back your power, right? And I know earlier we was talking about Michelle a little bit. I love what she did, because she kind of reversed some of the procedures that she had, but not only that, she had a show, and she, talked about her trials and everything that she went through, and then she allowed other women to come on her show to show, what happened to their bodies because they thought they need the BBL or they need the breast enhancement or whatever. And some of these women, they lost their legs, their limbs. So she took her power back. And she's also showing that, look, it's not all what it claims to be. Because sometimes this is what a lot of women don't understand. It's like, yes, you may want to enhance your body. I'm not telling you can't, but you don't know how your body is going to respond to that procedure. That's what a lot of women is not realizing. They're just thinking about the outcome, the glory of it.
Because they're watching everybody else.
Right, but it's like when you watch these women and what they went through on Kim Michelle, you be like, you know what, on second thought, I'm going to be okay with my pancake. Can I be real?
Okay, Michelle came out and she did it.
Right.
Now I'm watching Angela, and I'm going to call her Angela because she's trying to go back to Angela, which is Black China.
Right.
It's huge that she's doing it now, because some of these people that she influenced a lot of people. And I'm watching her change, and I'm like, wow, is this what it's going to take for these young women to believe, to see that they don't need these BBLs,
Right?
That they don't need these face fillers that make them look like. I don't know what the purpose of that face filler thing is. Then I'm watching her. I think she got baptized like last week or something, and I'm listening to her on Twitter or what is it, Instagram, and I'm like, wow, how many other celebrities are going to start doing this? Is this what it's going to take for these young women who are watching these shows to understand that you don't need a BBL? Because we don't even know what a real booty is anymore. Because everybody got a BBL, and everybody got a,
I know what mine is.
but a lot of people, back in our day, it was like, oh, they got a booty. Now they don't know what a booty is.
Yeah,
They walk around with, a BBL or something. And it's okay if you want to get stuff done. However, are you doing it because of the self-esteem, or you trying to make money, or you doing it because you're trying to convince the world that you're sexy or you're selling sex? What are we doing with it?
Yeah.
And I want to go back real quick. And I'm also thinking about some of these women. I'm pretty sure they got some type of woman in their life telling them no, right? But we already know that sometimes when you get to a certain age, you're like, I'm gonna do what I want to do, right? But when you think about it, when you get to that standpoint, you're like, you know what? Mama was right. So it was instilled in you, but you made your own decision. We got to take that into account. You are making their own decision on what you're doing it for, what the purpose is for. But now they're going back. Like I said, let me go back to church. Let me go get baptized. Grandma was right.
But it goes back to the way you thinking at 16 is not the way you thinking at 25.
Absolutely.
And who you was at 25 is not who you are at 30.
Absolutely.
At some point, you're going to get older.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that regret some of their decisions.
Right.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but the question is, can Michelle and I believe this other young lady,
China.
they're doing it for their own reasons.
Right.
But there was people before them that was trying to tell you not to do it because it was causing physical harm to them.
It was killing people too.
But it just goes to show the influence of these celebrities.
Yes.
It's huge.
Yes.
Yes.
You got people watching the show just to see this happening.
Right.
Yeah.
You just got people paying attention to you because of what it is that you're doing. I'm not particular in who Black China is or what she's famous for, other than having a kid for a couple of people. I don't know her to be famous for anything other than that. I don't know her.
They say her head game is priceless.
Oh my God. So anyway, this is exactly the issue, right? This is exactly the issue. When we're talking about influence, what type of influence do you want to be as a woman? And again, from a sustainability standpoint, for the rest of your life, you have to think about, to your point, at 16, I'm not thinking like I am at 30 or at 20 or at 40 or at 50. But you got to understand there are implications to everything you do in life as you carry yourself throughout life. What choices you make, and how you, how you project yourself out into society, into your family environments, into your homes, and into your businesses, and into your offices. With leaders in the organization. You have to be cognizant that number one, what you put out there is what people look at you and they'll hold you to exactly what you show them.
Absolutely.
They will believe exactly what they're saying, even though you may not believe it yourself. You think otherwise. They're going to take exactly what you put out there as Bible, unless you show different. So, we have to, again, as women, and you said it, again, speaking to the audience, we have to be different. We have to be, we have to put ourselves out there. And again, when we talk about positivity, it's about strength of mind, strength of soul, strength of body. And I'm not talking about taking clothes off and showing everything under the sun, or even having to change your body. Because again, there's something missing there that's making people do that, right? It's not being happy with self or feeling worthy because of what society is telling you should be.
Right.
And we're following the trend versus being the leaders or the followers, and we're supposed to be stronger than that as women. We come a long way, but we're reverting back to things of people controlling who we should be as women in society, because we're allowing those influences to take our minds down that rabbit hole and making things worse for us. So, we as women have to be those leaders And again, going back to the audience out there, to your point, the mothers, the grandmothers, the sisters, the aunties, even celebrities out there, think about what you're putting out there and what you're showing to your children, to your girls, your young girls, and how they can be, they're worthy of more in life. And it doesn't have to be somebody taking off their clothes or having to put makeup on or showing any part of themselves. It's again the influence of being a nurturer, being again being strong mind, body, and soul, and owning who you are as an individual.
Mm.
You know,
It takes time.
and it does. It does take time.
Because like Shelly said, you don't know who you are at 16.
Mm-hmm.
You might know who you are at 39.
Mhm.
It's a process.
And it's going to continue to be a process.
Absolutely.
But if you don't have positive influences in your life, that's where you get confused, because you're never going to know who you are if we're constantly focusing on what is out there and what society is projecting on us and telling us what we need to be. There's a confusion there, right? Where we're constantly, we are not good with ourselves. We're allowing all these influences out there tell us who we're supposed to be. Supposed to be a rapper cursing up a storm, or opening your legs, or throwing
Or
your
drinking
or
bottles.
drinking bottles, and
Yeah.
trying to be this and that. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that to be a positive
But they don't.
influence in
Those
society.
people don't have longevity either, and that's the problem.
Absolutely.
They don't even realize they don't have longevity. No matter how many curses that you say, no matter how many times you spread your legs, no matter how many bottles of
Whatever.
alcohol you're drinking,
Right.
no matter how many people you lay down with, how
Mhm.
many souls you tie your soul to,
Mm.
that stuff ends. It ends. But then the question is, you have no plan B.
Yep.
No plan B. You are uneducated. You are into the fast money. And this is how some people think of it, right? So they say some guys go to fast money by selling narcotics,
Right.
and then the females go to fast money by selling themselves.
Mhm.
Fast as it gets, as fast as it goes.
Right.
You don't have the concept that when you invest in yourself,
Mhm.
you want to return on it,
Mhm.
right? You can spend all the time you want, but those are things that you cannot get back. Time, your words, positive energy that you let negative energy swallow up. You can't get none of that back. It's up to you to decide how you're going to influence the world. I'm a grandma now, so I know not only if my children, my young adults are watching me and their friends, but my grandchildren are watching me. So can they see me? Do I get upset? Do I sometimes say some things that I probably shouldn't say? Absolutely. I'm human. But I do the very best that I can to know that somebody is always watching me, even when I don't realize it.
Oh yeah.
And whenever I'm out my house, I don't touch 5 lives, even though they may not have come up to me and said anything. I may not know how I touched your life. I may not know what it was that I did, what movement did I make, what word did I say, maybe even a look I gave you, if I smiled at you. And I just helped you remember that you are here.
Right.
I don't know all of that. So I'm not going to be afraid of the unknown. I'm just going to know that my influence reaches, and I have to be positive in it. I suggest those of you that are out there that are listening, for my silent audience, I hear you, I see you, I love you, and I need you to know that although you're silent, it speaks volumes.
Loud doesn't always mean that it's
Doesn't always got to come out hard.
Right. Lady K, any last thoughts?
Ooh, you know, we touched
I
on
know,
so
I
much.
know. So what? So you talked about your people who influenced you, or people that you looked up to, right? you know, and I know you have you have two sons. And I know, as you said, you've evolved through life as well, right? As far as influence, personal influences in your life, outside of obviously the two that you mentioned, because I think, you know, Michelle Obama, not for nothing, I think she's got a lot of influence on a lot of women, right? Who else do you see as an influence in your life as you've grown and become an adult?
I definitely want to talk about my mom. I definitely have seen her evolve, you know, over the years. You know, she wasn't perfect, she's not, but that is definitely a woman with morals and values. And that's one thing that I appreciate that she gave me.
Mhm.
That right there. She's not perfect, but like I said, that right there, how she carries herself, how she moves. I respect that.
Yeah.
I like that. You know, and she needs to know that too.
And this is one thing I want to leave with is, you know, we want to acknowledge the women out there who have been, and again, I don't want to say movers and shakers when it comes to their bodies. I'm talking about movers and shakers when it comes to their mind
Mm-hmm.
and the strength that they have within their homes and outside in society, and showing people that they are worthy of better in life, and giving that influence back to these young girls out here that are struggling and don't know where to move and how to move, right? So again, to all you who have been moving in a positive light and who have been mentors to others, and those that you don't even know you're mentoring by just existing in what you're doing, thank you for that. Because as we talk about Women's History Month, you need to be acknowledged for those reasons and those seasons that you continue to enter and allow women that you're influencing to enter with you. So thank you for that. With that said, any last parting words? Because I know Lady Wisdom, she had a lot to break down today.
Nope. Just be good to yourself. Choose peace.
Choose peace.
Let your week be filled with it. Mindful of your influence.
Absolutely. Ms. Bling. Now look, Ms. Bling here's got a couple daughters who are doing extraordinary well.
Yes.
So I want to say thank you for being an influence, a positive influence, you and Mama C, to your daughters, because they're doing amazing things, and you know that shows in the work that you two are doing in raising those children. So thank you for that.
Which sometimes amazes me because there are things that they say, and I'm like, maybe I did do a good job.
Mhm.
So thank you.
Know that you have. Know that you have.
That's interesting that you said that sometimes mothers doubt themselves.
Yeah.
Are we doing a good
Even
job?
my
Yeah.
son,
Right.
you know, he said some things, and I'm like, oh,
They're
we have
learning.
a little bit.
They're learning. They're getting it. They're getting it. Look, you know, the products of society, think about how they're growing, you know, and again, I want to shout out even my sisters, you know, for the work that they've done with, you know, my nieces and nephews, and my mom, you know, for how, and my dad, because he was a huge influence in our life as well. And, you know, very strict family environment, you know, what we could and couldn't do. And then we become our own, right? And, you know, we just continued in life. So thank you. And I want to thank again all the women out there that have been amazing influences to their children's lives, their grandchildren's lives, their, you know, their the aunties, the all that. Thank you once again. Continue to be those mentors for these women, because we need it today. There's a lot of crazy things going on out there, and social media has not helped in that manner, unfortunately. So you guys got to be those leaders in these women's lives to allow them to, you know, again, be the strong, nurturing souls that we are meant to be, and positive souls out there. So with that said, this is your girl Steph on Sistership Sundays, Sistership Network. Thank you for joining us. We're here every Sunday from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Our call in 888-304-4401. We will see you next Sunday on Sistership Sunday. Thank you all for joining us. Happy Women's Month. And we are at the end of Women's History Month. But you know what? Women's History Month is every month, right? So every single day that we wake up, we're making history. So with that said, thank you all again.